the origin story of the alpha male. The whole alpha male idea came from a 1970s study on captive wolves. So you're talking about wolves in a survival situation, not a thrive.
Welcome to Reforged, a podcast by the Authentic Masculinity Project, a place where we have raw conversation about modern masculinity, capacity, complexity, integration, and authenticity.
Let's talk about the alpha male. Yeah, that guy. The one that's yelling into a mic about dominance. The one wearing his sunglasses indoors, explaining frame to teenagers. The one corporate America put on a pedestal and TikTok turned into a meme. You know him, right? Loud, confident, unapologetically aggressive, sleeves tied around his biceps, voice low, emotions locked down like a bank vault. He's the guy that every broken young man is told to become. The problem is he doesn't exist. So, like, where did this myth begin? So let's get into this a little bit. The origin story of the alpha male. The whole alpha male idea came from a 1970s study on captive wolves. So you're talking about wolves in a survival situation, not a thrive. A scientist named David Mech was observing wolf packs and noticed that one male seemed to dominate the others, eating first, winning fights, and getting the females. So he coined the term alpha male. He wrote a book on it. The media ran with it. The next thing you know, every dude with the superiority complex had a new title. But here's the kicker. Years later, David Mech tried to take it back. He realized his original study was actually flawed because it was based on wolves in captivity, not in the wild, not in a natural environment. Turns out, wolves in the wild don't have alpha males. They live in families. The leader isn't the toughest or the loudest. He's usually a father, a protector, and a provider. Let me repeat that. A father, a protector, and a provider. Leadership is earned through trust, maturity, and service, not dominance. But by the time the correction came out, it was too late. The alpha male myth had already infiltrated corporate culture, pickup artist forums, and social media like a virus that refuses to die because posturing sells. Because why? Because men are hurting and because the world loves a simple lie more than a complex truth. The rise of the alpha bro. I mean, we've got a generation of men who think real men dominate. Real men don't feel. Real men take, win, fuck, conquer, and real men never ask for help. You've seen it. He calls himself a high value male. He drives a leased Lamborghini, right? He films himself yelling at women for not bringing enough to the table. His whole identity is built on looking untouchable, but he can't sit in silence with himself. He can't hold eye contact when he's not being admired. He can't connect without performing. That's not masculinity. That's a mask. And you know what's under that mask? A little boy. We call it the needy little boy syndrome, right? He's terrified he'll be found out, terrified he's not enough without the brand, the abs, the bank account. He's terrified that if he stopped performing, he'd disappear. So, real masculinity, it isn't a ranking system. Masculinity isn't a hierarchy. It's not a ladder to climb. We use the archetype of the mountain, not the flag on top of the mountain, not the climber on the mountain, not even the weather that changes around the mountain. It's the mountain. It's not a damn zoo of dominance displays. Authentic masculinity isn't about being alpha. It's about being anchored. And let me say that again. You don't need to dominate the room. You need to stabilize it. Let's break this down. So here's the alpha posture, right? Loud, self-serving, insecure underneath, obsessed with perception, can't tolerate being challenged, avoids emotional depth like it's weakness, and is scared of true intimacy. By contrast, what is the authentic man? He's quietly powerful. He listens more than he talks. Here's a big one. He regulates his own nervous system. He takes responsibility without fanfare, can say, I was wrong without losing strength. He serves instead of controls. He leads from alignment, not attention. One is a performer, the other is a presence. One is addicted to admiration, the other doesn't need it because he knows who the fuck he actually is, right? So the alpha lie keeps men really, really small. And here's the tragic part. I mean, the male myth doesn't just mislead, it actually shrinks men. It teaches you to fear softness, to chase status instead of purpose, to compete with every man you meet instead of building a brotherhood, to run from grief, to disconnect from your body, to fake your power, which leads to dying inside while you're doing it. And when that doesn't work, because it won't, you either implode or you numb out, escape. That's where the addictions creep in, the porn, the rage, the chasing, the collapse, the substances, because the energy of your soul was never meant to dominate others. It was meant to forge something sacred, authentic, real. So what does real masculinity look like? Okay, so real masculinity looks like this: a man holding his daughter after a hard day and letting her cry without fixing it. A husband owning his fuck up without blame, without deflection, just truth. A man breathing through a panic attack and staying present instead of running or escaping. A leader who says, I don't know yet, instead of pretending that he does. A warrior who doesn't need a sword to prove he can protect what matters. So, real masculinity isn't measured in volume, it's measured in containment. Can you hold yourself, others, the moment, the pressure? The truth is, the men who refuse to be alpha are the ones I trust to lead. So this is why Reforged exists. This is why the Authentic Masculinity Project exists, because we are sick of the alpha lie, sick of seeing good men disappear, sick of seeing broken boys with microphones teach the next generation to chase ego and call it growth. Reforged isn't here to give you more rules. It's here to burn off the ones that never belonged. No more peacocking, no more dominance games, no more faking it. Just presence, power, truth, process, mission. So if you've been wondering why all this posturing still leaves you empty, it's because your soul isn't interested in being alpha. You came here to be aligned, and there's a massive difference. One more time for the men in the back. The alpha male is a myth. The embodied man is the future. Which one are you becoming? The AMP process, the AMP four pillars are path, understanding your path, where you're at, where you're going, presence, practicing it, cultivating it, process, somatically releasing things that no longer serve you, that are actually no longer protecting you and are actually blocking you from connecting and growing the way that you're supposed to. And then strategy, understanding what to do with the energy that you reclaim by going inside and melting everything that's not actually authentic.
Thank you for listening to Reforged. Remember to like and subscribe for more.